Good morning to everybody, and a very big welcome to my Monday messages. And for those of you who may be tuning in for the first time, I am Rebecca, and I make a living from supporting women mostly, but not exclusively, to really be able to dig deep and transform any stuck energy, any disempowering beliefs, any stories that we might be telling ourselves about what our truths are, and to be able to ask ourselves how those so-called beliefs and truths are actually serving us, and how we have the power to be able to change or transform them when they are not serving us in the way that we need them to. So today, I first of all wanted to actually just share with you one of the many, many joys of being a long-term homeopath, certainly first and foremost, but also just an energy alchemist, if you like. And that is the ability to actually see and witness how beautifully humans grow and expand and are really healthy when they are choosing to reach for things like homeopathy throughout their lives. And many of the patients that I've seen, the clients that I've seen recently, have been they are young adults that I originally actually saw even before they entered the world. I was actually supporting their mothers during pregnancy. And I've had about half a dozen of these unbelievably beautiful young adults coming in because they are starting to go out into the world themselves. They're actually in transit, if you like, and transitioning from being children, teenagers, adolescents, and stepping out often for the first time into the adult world. So some of them are leaving home for the first time. Some of them are starting jobs or going into third level education. And it's all new. It's a time that can induce all kinds of opportunities to examine, what we're wanting to hang on to and what we're not wanting to hang on to, and to see what might be unsettling us. Anyway, one of these lovely, lovely people came in to me recently, and he's always been very self-aware, but he had decided that after looking on the internet and being part of several peer groups, that he felt that he was OCD, and he had attached that label to himself. And he initially felt some relief about this label, because for him it explained a lot of his behaviours that he was believing were dysfunctional, that were not comfortable for him, that were taking a lot of energy, and having some kind of recognition that he wasn't alone in this, that it was normal amongst certain people, made him feel that he belonged to a tribe, if you like, that he wasn't on his own. And these are all things that are really, really key when we're transitioning. Certainly when we're stepping out of our comfort zones and stepping out into the world, perhaps for the first time, that need for us to feel that we belong somewhere, and that our individual quirks, if you like, are normal and acceptable, and that we not only that, but there are other people who do them too, is a really important, or can be a really important part of learning to accept those parts of ourselves. Now, what he felt also was an awareness that, that it was, in a way, it was evidence that he needed, that something wasn't right, that something was broken in him, and that if he could have that label, that it meant that he could accept it, and that he didn't have to do anything about it, and that he could stay resting in that acceptance without actually needing to change anything. Now, he's astute enough to know that, having done that for a little bit, that he didn't feel completely accepting of it, that it actually was meaning that he had stopped looking, that basically he'd accepted that a large part of his life was going to be about managing these behaviours that were actually exhausting him on one level. And he didn't feel that that was a constructive way for him to be. He wanted to look at, was there any possibility of him not feeling like needing to do those behaviours anymore? And what we decided to do actually was a QTT session and to give a remedy. And he actually fed back to me only a few days later how delighted he was that he'd already noticed that he was able to do all kinds of things that he hadn't been able to do without it tipping him into feeling very uncomfortable and needing to do these kind of ritualistic behaviours. He'd noticed he could be more spontaneous, that he could actually accept more spontaneous social invitations, for example, without having to feel the feelings that were driving his behaviour, and ultimately often meant that he refused those invitations. I'm delighted to read you some of his feedback, actually. He gave me some very full feedback, but he said, I just feel different. He said, I feel more in control. I'm able to do things a lot more spontaneously without it creating that sense of panic or chaos that I was feeling before. So I'm finding that I just don't need to do as many of those behaviours that I felt that I needed to do before the session. And it's making me feel much lighter and much calmer and more sociable, he said. I mean, isn't that absolutely fabulous? The thing about a lot of these young adults who have been treated homeopathically almost exclusively is that it doesn't take much to allow them to actually access the resources they need, whether that's internal or external, to be able to actually make really deep and significant changes. And that can be from remedies, or it can be from a QTT session, or a bit of both. And that's the way that I like to work. So really that reminded me of the importance of perhaps really looking at any labels or diagnoses, if you like. Sorry, I'm just going to plug my phone in because I think it's about to die. So looking at these labels and diagnosis and really exploring how they're actually working for us. I mean, certainly in my own experience, many, many years ago, I was diagnosed hypothyroid. And initially, it felt like a huge relief. I felt, an enormous amount of ability to rest in, okay, now I know. Now I know it's not me imagining things. It's not me making things up and complaining about something needlessly. There is actually something wrong, and that I just have to do what I'm told. I have to take the medication that I've been prescribed for the rest of my life, and all will be well, and I will be back to normal. Now, in my case, I'm really grateful for the fact that that actually did not happen. And when I realised that actually I had a choice of whether to accept that label and just accept that that's how I was going to be for the rest of my life, that describes me, I am hypothyroid, or whether I was going to actually perhaps put that to one side and continue to search for resources that actually meant that I felt better, that I felt healthier, that I could transform any stuck energy that was contributing to my state, my health, and my self-belief, and I could turn things around. And I've said this before, but now, decades later, I no longer take that prescribed medication. I do not believe there's anything wrong with my thyroid. And I feel healthier than I've felt in a long time, despite my age. So for me, untethering myself from a total enmeshment in that label was what enabled me to actually continue looking. Oh, good morning, Helen. Thank you very much. And to leave no stone unturned, basically. So I'm just issuing a little bit of a, warning's too harsh, but just an invitation to for you to explore if you are carrying any attachment to any labels, either for yourself or for family members, that you maybe do a kind of assessment. How is that label working for me? Is it actually supporting me to continue to grow and expand and to feel as healthy and as joyful and as expansive as possible? Or might it actually be allowing me to rest in my comfort zone, allowing me to actually say, it's not my fault. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can take responsibility for that will mean that I can actually transform any behaviours that might be attached to that label. There's a set of questions to ask that I've popped into the post with this video. I would invite you to go through those questions. And I should say, I am not issuing any judgment here. Sometimes having a label or a diagnosis can be incredibly useful and can actually be transformative. It can release energy. I recognise that, and it can do the reverse. It can allow us to actually settle back and accept our current state as that's it. That's it. That's the best I can hope for forever. And I hope that my story and this young man's story will encourage you to know that that doesn't have to be it. We do not have to settle. So just actually pulling back and having a good old look at those labels and just asking, how are they actually serving me? Am I happy with how they're serving me right now and everything that goes with my belief around that label? Or is it just keeping me comfortable, familiar, not allowing me to step out and perhaps open up to the possibility of feeling even better than I already do? Or even, dare I say it, transforming the energy that created that state in the first place so that I no longer feel that label or that diagnosis is actually appropriate anymore. That's it. Food for thought, I think, for the week. Please enjoy your week, and let me know your comments about labels and diagnoses. What do you think? Do you think I am unique in my experience, or does this resonate? And if it does, please reach out and let's have a chat, and let's see what would be the best next step for you in your journey of self-discovery. Thank you so much for listening, and have a beautiful week.